right back, Charlie. Definitely.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, man. Come on.
Because you always use that active when defending. I think it's like. Because you always use that active when defending. I think it's like. Because you always use that active when defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again. First things first, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, in some cases, good night. Big up the Twitch gang. If you're on YouTube, we've got 100 likes target. Make sure you're smashing the like button and keep a mental note. I'll be sure to keep reminding you, but tomorrow is Burnley against Arsenal, where we've obviously taken 12 points from a possible 12. Hopefully, come the end of that game, it's 15 points from 15. We kick off at 3 p.m. UK time. I'll be live from 2 p.m. Big up you lot. Second live stream of the day. Again, the work and the grind don't stop, you know. So yeah, big up you lot. Appreciative of you lot tuned in. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button. If you're on Twitch, do what's necessary. Subscribe with Amazon Prime. Any talking points, differences of opinion, questions, etc., it's all welcome, and appreciative to you lot tuned in. Happy Friday in advance. T, appreciate you for being tuned in. And again, road to 70k subs. So make sure you're hitting the like button, you're subscribing, you're doing all of that sort of stuff. Without wasting any more time, let 100% N'Golo Kante settings, man. In life, you have to go for what you want, in it. You know, no one's gonna give you something. You have to take it, really. You know, it's be useful or be useless. So I'm trying to be the first. But you know, let's not waste any time. We've got a lot to go over. Tab police look away now. You know, Arteta's added fuel to the flame of Kylian Mbappé. We heard Thierry Henry wants him. We heard he's got admiration for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta has said he's a player that Arsenal should be in the conversation for. Do I think we're signing Kylian Mbappé? 100%. I don't, people. I would love the guy. If there was any sort of caliber of player to ruin your wage structure or to put up with attitude, alleged issues, it would be Kylian Mbappé. And that number 14 shirt is there for you. Eddie Nketiah is cool, man. Control number 35 or something. So without wasting any more time, let's crack on, lads. Again, every day I stream, you know, I've heard Bourgeois, Errol Spence, which pause. I don't mind the Errol Spence ones. I don't even watch basketball like this, but big up Rants. Make sure you're following him. I was doing a stream with Rants earlier today. Someone said I look like this, brother. You know what? Don't mind, really. Gally, if you think he tickles your fancy, shout me, DM me, you know the vibes. Anyways, people, progressing. I'm sure some of you would have seen on your tablets, your phones, the internet, whatever. Arsenal must be in the conversation for Kylian Mbappé, says Mikel Arteta. Now, what the headline and what he's actually said are probably two different things, but that's adding fuel to the flame. As I always say, the dream is free, the hustle is sold separately. I am happy that we're in the conversation, but if you don't get the player, you don't get the player. Apparently, the Arsenal manager accepts Real Madrid are the favourites to sign the forward. Everybody wants to play for Arsenal, insists Mikel Arteta. I mean, he's not going to say anything different. For what it's worth, allegedly, Mikel Arteta, and again, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Mbappé has more or less told PSG that stop offering me new contracts. I'm leaving at the end of the season. Since then, apparently, Fabrizio Romano has actually tweeted he said goodbye to the necessary parties at PSG as well as his teammates, and I'm sure he wants to end the season in the best way. Mikel Arteta says Arsenal should be in the conversation for the signature of Kylian Mbappé after the striker's summer departure from PSG was confirmed, even though Real Madrid remains favourites to complete a deal. Now, Real Madrid is one thing, City is the other, in my opinion. You've got Arsenal and Liverpool where you probably would be the poster boy and stuff, but they're not guaranteed trophies. You're guaranteed to probably win several La Ligas if Barcelona keep doing what they're doing and Real Madrid keep doing what they're doing. Pep Guardiola is bad news to the Premier League if you don't support Manchester City. Beyond that, who knows? Allegedly, he's informed PSG, that he will, you know, when his contract expires in June, he's going to keep it moving. Arteta has said, people, apparently, before we get into that, Real Madrid are long-term suitors, but an agreement is yet to be struck with the player and his reps, theoretically leaving the door open for an English club to step in. Arteta is quoted to have said, when there is a player of that caliber, we always have to be in the conversation, but it looks to be in a different way. Then he said, when asked on discussions, I'm not, maybe Edu, who is our sporting director, and the owners are, but I'm not in those conversations until the last stage. It would be a blockbuster signing. It would be a statement signing. It'd be one where if we sign Kylian Mbappé, we must win trophies, really. Could you imagine Saka on one side, Martinelli, and then you've got Kylian Mbappé or Jesus comes into the mix? We'd be lit. You know, Vinicius Jr., if you're getting cold feet about Real Madrid, Wenger, chat to him. In fact, Wenger, go and chat to you and Thierry Henry. Don't leave Kylian Mbappé alone. You don't need to go and find him and say, you know what, forget money. I want to play for Arsenal Football Club. But this is a player that if we were going to have him play for a club, you can't rule out the future. You needed to have got him when he was at Monaco, or somehow found the money to get him, you know, before he went to PSG. But it is what it is in that regard. But, you know, you got Saliba here, big man. You know, you wouldn't have to play against Saliba. You know what he did to you when he was on loan in France. You see what he does to Haaland. You might as well come over these sides. So who knows? Apparently, Arteta did little to play down the idea he would jump at any opportunity to sign Mbappé, reiterating that players of his stature should always be mentioned in connection with an upwardly mobile Arsenal. He said, why not? If we want to be the best team, we're going to need the best talent and the best players, that's for sure. Everybody wants to play for Arsenal. Definitely since you've become our manager, players have been tempted. The players we have held discussions with, they always have that smile on their face the moment you open the door and start to have that discussion. That is because our history and everything we have done in the past as well. Fair enough, people. The dream is free. The hustle is sold separately. Arteta has apparently said it's the most important part of the season. We know that every fixture will play a significant part in what we want to achieve. We have learned a lot of things from last season. I don't think we've learned enough, really, because the depth should be covered at this football club. We shouldn't have to have our manager come out and say we've got one of the finished squads in the league, regardless of injuries. We've seen that movie before. Romano has said reports in the English media suggest that Mbappe's entourage offered the player to Liverpool last year, but the Reds weren't prepared to break their wage structure. A desire to emulate Thierry Henry apparently also saw the Frenchman being offered to Arsenal, and they turned him down for the same reasons. I have to say, guys, that I haven't heard this honestly. There's no update on Mbappé so far. I've really nothing new to share. And I mean, since then, things have changed, people. In relation to Mikel Arteta's press conference on latest team news, some of them have been progressing better than others. We have a training session again today. Some of them have done a few bits this week, and I'm positive that hopefully we're going to get a few back for tomorrow. I'm sure every Arsenal fan has. He said if any are ruled out for tomorrow, at the moment, no. Now, again, Mikel Arteta might be telling the truth, or he might not be lying, but withholding the truth. It's probably fair to assume Timber is out. I guess that's more in relation to maybe Thomas Partey, which naturally I'm going to be pessimistic as to whether he's going to be fit and maintain fitness. Obviously, you hope Zinchenko, Jesus, maybe even Fabio Vieira, Tomiyasu, any players we can have on the bench or in the starting 11, we need our players back. On how important it is to use the squad in the right way, we have to go game by game, because at the moment, in certain positions in the last few weeks, we didn't really have a choice. We had to play them. We didn't really have any other players to do so. And we had the chance during some matches to make some changes and adjust the minutes and load of certain players. We have tried to manage that in the best way, because it's going to be really important. Maybe that's with some players being afforded starts and coming into the lineup. Maybe that also is in relation to the West Ham game, where Declan Rice and Saka have actually been subbed. And yes, it's only a tiny bit of minutes, but any fuel in the tank we can preserve in those two key players, it'd be great, people. On if any injuries will be longer than expected, there are no big setbacks of any other injuries, and Thomas Partey as well is progressing really well. I don't want to say too much, but he's looking very good and he's on the field already. Hopefully, man, you know, big up Thomas Partey, gives us another dimension. We all want to see you play, but you're going to have to forgive me, Arsenal fans. Like, I'll believe it when I see it, and not only when I see it, when it's able to be a period of maintained fitness. As we just heard, it's the most important part of the season. And on top of that, the next part says, you know, it's the most important part of the season. And we know that every fixture is going to play a significant role in what we want to achieve. Burnley is the most important one at the moment, a team that is extremely difficult to beat. We need to be beating him. And Arteta company said Lokonga is the next Yaya Toure. We need to be taking 3 points off him. Burnley is we've already gone with that. You look at the results and how teams have drawn or beaten them, and it's been it's been through very small margins. They're extremely well coached, a team that is very competitive. So we know that we have a very tough match on Saturday. That's the only focus for us, to continue to play with the same energy and enthusiasm to play the game, compete in the game in the best way possible, and the rest will come. On being involved in exciting title race, we want to be there, and that means that we've done a lot of things right during this season, and we have learned a lot of things from last season. We've shown a big level of consistency and good things in the team. Now we want to go another step forward and maintain that consistency, continue to play the way we are playing and perform, and let's see where it gets us. He then went on to say, working with the team on the strengths as well as things we can improve. Sometimes in the player as well, to try more and have more belief and adjust certain things to embrace the qualities and be more difficult to defend at times. That's a constant evolution that a team needs through the season, because opponents are very intelligent and they know what we want to do. On friends with company, said friends, buddies. Well, we know each other really well. I have huge respect for him. We had a really good relationship when we worked together, and now as well. I have a huge admiration for him when he was a player, when I worked with him, and then he was captain. He conducted himself with a special aura around him. He's very well articulated, has great ideas, a very clear vision of how he wants to play the game. And on top of that, he's got the courage. And I love that in a coach, in a player. And regardless, he brings his sleeves up and gets going. His work ethic is phenomenal. On having the chance to win the first 5 games of the calendar year for the first time, there are moments and things that are motivating, and the players are aware sometimes, but sometimes not even aware of certain things they've done or records. Maybe that's in relation to Bukayo Saka last week. It's another extra thing. The focus is on the game and what we have to do to earn the right to win, and if it comes, great. Then he went on to say, faster than defeat. The defeat in the tummy is good for 48 hours. And when you win, and the way we did it, take the positive energy and carry on. But that has to drive to an even better energy, and we'll continue to keep improving, because there are still things that we can do much better. On if Burnley will click on the company, I mean, I'm not going to read that. Naturally, he's going to say that. He's never going to disrespect a fellow manager. On Kai Havertz, he said, I love him. I love him. You spent 65 million on him. You're going to have to love him, people. So, yeah, I think we all love him as a player, as a person, everything that he brings to the team. There are 2 or 3 moments the other day with 4, 5, 6-0, and how he tracks people and how he's defending the box. What about some goals? And how he's attacking the box, the position that he's constantly threatening the opponent's box as well, that I really like. And you ask him to play as a 9, as a right attacking midfielder, left attacking midfielder, on the base defending, and he does it. He's just a joy to work with. On David Raya, who looks very settled in an Arsenal shirt. What I like about David as well is what he does in goal, the things that he prevents us from. You don't even see it because they don't happen, because he has anticipated them. But yeah, obviously he's had the environment that was very challenging, and obviously he stepped with the greatest of respect to Brentford. David Raya is going from a club where obviously there's scrutiny from the fans, there's scrutiny in the Premier League, the manager's quite demanding, but Arsenal is a different beast. The way you breathe is going to be criticised. Respectfully to Mikel Arteta, I think he was a bit naive in not necessarily what you're doing, because you've shown you can make unpopular decisions, you know, and they work. And at this moment, it's working with Raya. But I feel you was a bit naive in the public reaction to it, or the media, you know. Again, Ramsdale signed a new deal and all of that jazz. Raya came in, you know. I think Raya is better at the distribution, and he's doing whatever Arteta demanded of him. But it's not like you bought a prime Van der Sar or Petr Cech or someone of that caliber that's above him. And then obviously them times Arteta was sitting there and saying, I will sub a keeper and things. Anyone that has a Scooby-Doo close to understanding of football, close to it, knew Ramsdale's days as the number 1 were numbered. And I don't think there'll be too many occasions we see Ramsdale this season in what's probably going to be his last year. So yeah, really and truly, I think fans were quite harsh, because I do think fans take some camps. I think there was people who don't really like Ramsdale, so Raya was the messiah, and there's some people that Ramsdale was the world to. So anything Raya did, it was a bit of a mad one, even when Ramsdale was playing in the cup games to a degree. So big up Raya, man, for showing courage and keeping it moving, people. The play, and he just looks comfortable, like everyone. The Dubai trip has worked wonders to a degree. The players with courage and character and personality, and when, even if it's like this, they want to be themselves and they push themselves to do that. He has earned the right to be very respected, and I'm really happy that he's winning. On Mbappé saying he will leave PSG, when there's a player of that caliber, we'll always have to be in the conversation. But as you said, it looks like he'll go another way. There you have it. On what he's learned from last season for the business end of the campaign. Now, this is probably where I'm going to have a slight disagreement with Mikel Arteta, but let's see what was been said. What I said is the most important thing to impact at the end of the season is to have the squad fully available. Now, are they fully available? Injuries happen, but are they fully available? Certain players, you know, Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Partey, they're synonymous to a degree or various degrees with injuries. So Arteta is when you say we need to be a team that gets 100 goals, when you say, you know, what the front players did was a bit of an anomaly last season, we're kind of making our own problems to a degree by not acting to the way we should in the market, in my opinion, really. And when is a club, realistically, when is a team or a 20-man squad, a 15-man squad, whatever, all going to be fully fit? Because whether you're injured or not, I can probably guarantee there's a handful of Premier League players that if you ask them, for all the teams involved, there's a handful of players that would say, I'm not carrying no niggles, no knocks, I'm not carrying no injuries or anything, I'm fully fit. Everybody, but we're in February. Think about the amount of football that's been played, especially a club like Arsenal, whether we've gone far or not. Been hella Premier League games. We played in the Champions League. You know, obviously the League Cup and the FA Cup, they were premature, but it's still workloads. And there's obviously, when there's injuries in the squad, players have to play more minutes and other things need to happen. So I'm not sure, but you are right at face value in that it is the most important part of the season. You do need your squad fully available. For me, that is requirement number one. At the moment, we don't have it and we're going to have it. And we are working really hard to have it. This is the requirement number one, the 2, 3, 4. If we don't have that one, it's going to be difficult. I think we have a good chance. So maybe he knows something we don't know as to when everybody in this team will be available to be selected. And if we can't win the league, if the whole team isn't fit, it's going to have to try to make it happen. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's more difficult, especially in certain positions when you have 2 or 3 players in certain positions. You can always vary and change it, but there are certain critical positions and then it becomes much more difficult. And if it's more difficult to play a team in the relegation battle, every game in the Premier League's tough, but you know, I would argue yes and no. I would say for Arsenal, it seemed whether we win, lose or draw, we're up for the bigger games. Like we seem to be all right in the bigger games. Like we didn't beat Newcastle, but we was up for that. We didn't beat Aston Villa, but we was up for that. You know, we shot ourselves in the foot against Spurs and Chelsea. We weren't fully up for it, but we was up for it. We've obviously beaten Man United, beaten City, beaten Liverpool at the Emirates. We're up for that. It's the games that should, again, life isn't straightforward, but the games that should be straightforward for us, that's where we've kind of been shooting ourselves in the foot. But at the same time, when you're Arsenal, Liverpool, you know, all of these teams are expected to get Champions League qualification, win trophies and whatnot. That's a privilege, you know. These lot are fighting for their livelihoods. They're fighting for their lives, really and truly. So you could argue it's difficult. And Burnley got nothing to lose. If we win, business as usual. If they win, you know the headlines that have been waiting to come out, that weren't there when we beat Liverpool, that weren't there when we, you know, they probably thought we beat Liverpool and then collapsed against West Ham. We know how this goes, people. You just have to see the recent games when they went to Anfield, what they did and how Liverpool beat them. It's going to be at home, which is going to be even more difficult. So it's going to be very tough. It is, you know, obviously Burnley don't have the connotations of direct football, Brexit-y football, but that's still an element they can. We know there's going to be 12 players because the fans will be making it difficult. We know they're going to find a way to mitigate against us. And under company, they've shown they can play football. Maybe it's a bit naive how they gain promotion to the Premier League, kind of still playing like that. Maybe that's shooting themselves in the foot. But I think there's more balance. It's definitely not going to be easy, but there's no easy games in the Premier. And again, we've shot ourselves in the foot with games that should be straightforward, really, really and truly, beyond the ones I've mentioned. On if a manager has to stick to their principles despite results, I would say without reading that, for me as an ignorant fan, I would say yes and no. I think you've got to be stubborn and stick to your principles and what you want to do. Even it's easy to believe in yourself when everything's happening, but in moments of uncertainty, when there's a million reasons to not do something, that's when you need to have the courage and stick to the one reason that does. Of course, naturally, you know, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So naturally, you do have to change. But the gaffer said, I don't know. Everybody has to feel. I think if you don't feel what you're doing, it's impossible, to transmit it. We have an idea and the players have to bind to it and they have to execute it. So when you don't really feel it, I don't know how you transmit it. Maybe for a game, but in a period of time, I guess they lose it. And when you lose them, obviously, this period now, we're obviously winning games, playing better and whatnot. And there's obviously been small, little, minor, tactical, individual and collective tweaks, but we haven't exactly been playing differently. And I'm not saying that as a criticism or a praise. So clearly the players and the manager, they're all buying into exactly what we did. I think psychologically affected us in the final third, maybe an air of predictability in what we're doing. I think, you know, I wouldn't describe us as the best defensive team in the Prem, but statistically we're up there. There has been a new look attitude in that. And I think generally that's been the case this season. But I do think there's been periods where we've kind of dropped off and we've needed to go back to basics, which we've gone back to basics and doing it quite well in the period that we're currently in. But if I'm being very harsh, which again, football is harsh, obviously going into the Liverpool game, had we have won, which we did, we probably expected to concede. But did we have to concede there? Nottingham Forest. Did we have to have the nervy 5 minutes or 10 minutes at the end of it? We didn't have to concede there. So we need to keep chasing this illusion of perfection. But I don't think the gaffer is wrong here. Maybe for a game, but in a period, I guess they lose it. And when you lose, and then you lose them. On how Raya is preventing things you don't see, have a look at the game again. I'm not going to tell you. So that's probably a bit of gassing him up, a little bit gassing up my guy, my fellow countryman, the keeper I brought in and the one that I'm protecting. The gaffer is seeing that as a good opportunity to do such. On the speed of his distribution, which has been very impressive. Yeah, there are opportunities in a match where you play fast and the door is open and you can maximize those situations like everyone does. He's shown it a couple of times recently. He definitely did that in the build-up to Martinelli's goal against City, and I actually think at Stamford Bridge as well. So yeah, man. On if he has been able to fill the team he has wanted this season. Yeah, but I think it's a great opportunity as well to adapt to certain players in certain positions or roles and in spaces and how they react, and they're so willing. And that sometimes gives you a different solution that you hadn't thought of because the situation requires that. And when you have players that are willing to change it and do it enough, normally good things happen. Obviously, thoughts are with Roy Hodgson. Apparently, he passed out on training. We hope he's all right. Obviously, there's a lot of stress with managers. We don't need to know that. On having strength to go for the champs in the Prem, I mean, you got to go as far as you can where this Premier League race is and the Champions League. We knew is in it. They're the two trophies that if you offered Mikel Arteta, all these players, all the fans, either or Dream World both, they want that really and truly. Me personally, I'm greedy. I'll throw the FA Cup in there as well. He said, I don't know, which again, then that's down to Edu and Mikel Arteta because that is for me. And again, he's being honest, but that shouldn't be a thing. Whether we're going to win it or not, you should have the depth and the capabilities to go do what needs to be done. I don't know. That's a decision that's going to depend on the availability that the squad have in moments in certain positions. As I said before, that's going to be my opinion there. On Fabio Vieira, who I'm sure wants to be able to play in the Champions League because he's playing his old club and obviously going back home to Portugal and that. He's very close. He's been training already for a few days with the team, so I think it's very close. He'll probably be back faster than we expected and he's in a good place. So maybe Arteta's given us a clue and saying he'll be available in some capacity against Burnley. Maybe he's saying, you know what, Burnley might come too fast. He can play against Porto. Maybe he's saying, you know what, the next games that are coming in a few days, he's not available. But whoever we've got at the end of next week, I don't know who we're playing on Saturday or Sunday, but we'll do what needs to be done. But that's positive. On if he could play against Porto, there's a chance, yes. On his coaching staff being linked with managerial jobs, yes, that's great. What has happened, not only with the coaching staff, but also certain staff that other clubs are trying to come and get, which is always a really good sign that they're doing a really good job. And we have the right people here. I mean, Jack Wilshere has been linked with a move. Carlos has been linked with a move. You know, obviously one of our doctors went off to Man United. And I'm sure there's probably some I'm missing out. Nice thumbnail for Arsenal, Burnley watching along. Appreciate that. I didn't make it though. Like someone reached out in the emails, we're trying to get things done. If Arsenal get Kylian, I feel like it's guaranteed league titles and UCLs. I mean, respectfully to the French league, it's not France, so I don't think it's a guarantee. We need to marry his quality with, you know, improving the areas that need to be addressed. Champions League, you need a million killies, really and truly. You know, you look at Real Madrid. Yes, you're going to think of the Viniciuses and the Modrics and whatnot, but there's also been other players that have stood up to be counted. You know, you look at someone like Courtois when they've won Champions Leagues, he's been unbeatable in front of goal. You know, every now and again, you know, Real Madrid have these decent kind of, you know, the Carvajal's and all of these kind of guys, really. Asensio in previous years, you know, Diaz did well in the champs the other day and got the goal for them. So you need a squad, but it would give us an added depth, really and truly. So that's Arteta's press conference. Obviously, we've gone over what he said with Kai Havertz. Team news, again, we've gone over that. People say, I don't try to miss anything. Apparently, Arteta is actually in line for a substantial pay rise as Arsenal contract talks progress. I mean, he's probably signed the contract, if I'm honest with you. You look at the players that have come in, you look at the trajectory. Why would they end it now? You know, yes, you could sit there and say, you know, does the conversation shift now from can Arteta do a rebuild and put life back into a football club? He's done all of that, bearing in mind this is his first job and he's come a long way. The conversation, in my opinion, now shifts to can he deliver in the Premier League? Can he deliver in the Champions League? Can he maximize all of his internal resources? And then if we do win or don't win, it's because of external factors out of our control. But the club sit there and probably say, you know what, we was leading the Prem title race last season. We picked to a generational coach in Pep Guardiola and the treble-winning City side. This year, where at least there's no guarantees, you know, they're definitely not. But you'd imagine we've established ourselves as, you know, at least one of the top 3 clubs in the country. Why would they want to ruin that now? And when you've seen the players coming in, I'm sure they're talking with players coming in for next summer and the players that have been convinced to sign new deals. Arteta's at the helm of that, people. So he apparently, there's talk of a new 3-year deal. What do you lot think of that? Smash the like button. Apparently, the figure will be substantially higher than his current salary of 9.5 million. Sources indicate that Arteta has been playing down his personal situation and the prospect of signing a new deal because he does not want the focus around him and not the team, which is in hot pursuit of the Premier League. Arsenal want long-term commitment, and whether you rate Arteta or not, he's a manager that is going to have a good future in the game and is in high regards. The only issue I would say, we got to remember, this is Arteta's first job. Being devil's advocate, this is a luxury. It's like being fresh out of university and then, you're prime minister or something crazy like that. We've got to remember that. I don't want Arteta to learn and go through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and ultimately Arsenal don't see any fruits of the labour, i.e. winning a Premier League of champs, doing what we need to do, really and truly. So let me know your thoughts, but big up the gaffer. Great collab earlier with Dan Pot. Shout out, Dan. Make sure you lot go and check that out and also subscribe to his channel, and big up yourself, Graham, and anyone else who was there. I really like Dan and his rationale when answering questions. Very balanced views. Amen. Bro, what's this false advertisement? Saka is not disrespected, with all due respect. I don't know where I've said that today. Oh, you're talking about the damn one. And I mean, I'm sorry. I hear that, but Saka is. The goalposts always. Listen, if you don't feel Saka is good and you think he's overrated and you don't think he's entertaining, great. But the goalposts always move with Saka. A lot of people don't want to just take in the guy's greatness. Where it comes to Arsenal, I know us Arsenal fans, especially those that put content out, can be very special, can be very erratic, and have hyper opinions. But I feel Declan Rice, there was all this, we overpaid and we've had our pants pulled down. Fair to say he's one of the signers of the season. You see what Saliba does. You see what Gabriel does. You see what the gaffer does for all his criticisms. Saka is one of the best in his position. There's very few 22-year-olds for the last 2-3 years that have been doing what he's doing. You look at the numbers of when he's actually scored goals and been decisive. Whether it's good or bad is something with the club. But Arsenal live or die typically with what Bukayo Saka does. And, there's no superlatives I can say for Bukayo Saka. And it feels like there's a reluctance to give this guy plaudits. So I respectfully disagree. The man is disrespected. I love having Arteta as our manager. I feel like he can cook if he has the right squad, which we almost have now. But is his squad good or bad? Any successes or failures are down to how he's assembled it, man. The problem is they say Saka ain't world-class, but Foden is. Foden's a quality player. I don't think either are world-class now. I'm not here to make this about Foden, but you can't tell me Saka isn't disrespected. Like, I hear it, but yeah. Moving on. Allegedly, Liverpool are leading the race to sign Shakhtar Donetsk star Georgi Sudikov, according to reports, although they face competition from Arsenal, City and Chelsea. He did play in the under-21s championship. I don't know this 21-year-old too much, so I'll leave you lot with that, people. So yeah, we've been linked with him. Apparently Mudryk wants him to link up at Chelsea, but hey, you sure you want to go down that route? I'm sure you've seen over the last few days, Arsenal coach Carlos Cuesta has been linked with the Norwich job for next season. Ben Napier, our former loan manager, is Norwich's sporting director, so maybe he knows that he could be an emerging gaffer. And we've all seen the all or nothings, his individual coaching. He's been at Atletico, he's been at Juventus, he's been under Mikel Arteta. He's the same age as me, 28. He's doing great things. What the hell am I doing? It's actually the 28th minute of the stream. So yeah, I'm sure he's got his own ambitions. Whether he reckons he's ready to make the step up to senior management, I don't know, because you could argue, well, Arteta did reject the job when Emery got it, so maybe he didn't think he was ready. But are you ever, for things that can change your life and things that can take you to the next level in life, are you truly ever ready? It's like being a young, talented player. Are you ever ready to play first-team football per se? You could be more rounded, but are you ever ready? Are you ever ready to be the boss, really? Because Arsenal doesn't live or die by his decisions. He does a great job. What Arteta tells him to do, he probably has a difference of opinion. He provides his own thoughts, but it's not on him. We might say coaching stuff, but if Arsenal going to lose, God forbid, against Burnley, it's not on him. Is he ready for that? I would say I would. If I was him, I'm sure you're comfortable at Arsenal. You feel there's unfinished business with the project. But if I was him, personally, I might go and do the Norwich job, because it would, in a positive way, it would scare me. And you've got to be outside your comfort zone. And what's the worst that can happen? You fail, you get sacked. You can go and I don't know if Arsenal will take you back, but you reckon he would get one of these roles again? Who knows, people? But yeah, let me know your thoughts. In relation to Osimhen, again, it feels like it was Arsenal, Chelsea, Chelsea, Arsenal. PSG apparently have thrown his hat into the ring as a potential Mbappé replacement, which I'm sure a lot of you want this man at the carpet. Victor Osimhen features prominently on PSG's transfer shortlist, says David Ornstein, after Mbappé informed the club of his intention to leave. We don't want to really waffle on that, but it could be a return to France for Osimhen, having been at Lille, people. And he's got 67 goals in 119 appearances for the Italian club. Last season, as you know, he got 26 goals in 32 league appearances. So it all depends, really and truly. It really does depend. And we all know previously a lot of players have gone from Napoli to PSG. I wonder, well, they've got the money, but I'm sure he's going to be attracted by PSG and their new project. And with Mbappe going, it means probably everyone gets equal clout. I'm sure Jogba and Chelsea have done all they can to entice him. Previously, we've heard his agents have been at London Coley. Personally, I don't really feel Arsenal are as interested in Osimhen as led to believe. I think we're going to go for the Tony or something like that. I agree. Plus, people always say Martinelli has a higher ceiling. No disrespect to Martinelli, but Saka is a better footballer than him. It's a weird one because on one hand, I feel Martinelli has the ability to surprise, but on the other hand, Saka's really doing it. Like, I do think we get caught with this whole potential and what they can be, and it's true, but Saka's actually doing it. Like, Saka's the difference maker. I love Martinelli. You don't know me, I'll back Martinelli. And I don't want no one to get injured, but if you told me Saka was out for the season or Martinelli was out for the season, and we're trying to, in an unlikely, win the champs of the Prem, which one would hurt me more? Which one would make me more pessimistic? Which one do I feel, is more of a difference maker? It's Bukayo Saka. Take nothing away from Martinelli and what he brings. So Saka is definitely ahead of him. But I do think people even sleep on Martinelli. We all know Mbappe's leaving. We've gone over that. Apparently, Wolves want 60 million for Pedro Neto. So let's just say we got Osimhen for 100 odd million quid. You got Neto for 160. You have to give it extra 20. You have to commit. We've already committed 27 million quid for the summer. At this moment in time, we spent 27 million pounds because we're going to make Raya's thing permanent. You'd imagine we need a centre mid. You assume we sign Zubimendi. That's 50 odd million. So I think if Arsenal want to go to obviously, if you can scout players and they're cheaper and they're better, great. But if you're going for these household, relatively experienced, Premier League proven guys, whatever you want to say, we're going to have to be spending around 200 odd million if Arsenal get the buffers required to, in their own way and collectively with the existing players, get us closer to City or Liverpool people. I'm not sure on 60 million. Would you lot do that for 60 million? The only thing I would say with Pedro Neto is obviously injuries for all his quality. And there's got to be some level of interest because we've been linked with him before. He's also recently been linked with Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, and actually moves abroad. And with his agent being Mendes, he could do anything. Wolves apparently, 1 minute we hear they need to sell because of FFP essentially. Then we hear they've actually made a lot of sales, so they were right. I don't know, people, but Pedro Neto is under contract for a couple of years. Allegedly, Wolverhampton Wanderers are holding out for a club record fee of more than 60 million for Arsenal target Pedro Neto, according to the Evening Standard. The 23-year-old, as I said, has 3 years left on his deal, people. And apparently the club are also in a strong position with the Premier League profit and sustainability rules after making over 100 million profit from player trading this season. Liverpool are also keen on signing Neto, but suitors will need to part with a hefty fee as Wolves will demand more than 53 million they received from Man City for Matheus Nunes. As much as I like him, is it a thing where you go for a cheaper winger so that the resources kind of spread? I'm not sure, people, but that's for Pedro Neto. I'm not one to believe the in-the-knows and all of this, people, but this guy said Arsenal tried to creatively sign Tony back in January with a package that complied with FFP, but Brentford stood firm and said no. Obviously, Brentford are fighting for Premier League survival, and they stood by him with his gambling stuff. Expect both Arsenal and Brentford to agree on a sensible fee this summer, which Thomas Frank come out recently and said, yeah, he's probably going to leave. He's got a year left on his deal or something like that. It is what it is. Apparently, according to reports, Arsenal have had Joshua Kimmich on their short list of midfield candidates. We do love him, but the amount of clubs he's being linked with, is his agent putting this stuff out there to get a new deal? Does he reckon to try something new? Been linked with Real Madrid and Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain, as well as obviously being a Bayern Munich player where, their form's looking a bit shaky. Would love Kimmich because he could play right back as well. And he's 28, which is crazy. Kimmich is 28 now. Time moves, isn't it? Essentially. I'm sure his friend and former Stuttgart player and current teammate actually at Bayern Munich, Gnabry, can talk good things to him about Arsenal Football Club. But the report comes initially from a Spanish kind of source. So I'm not saying they're wrong, but primarily a Spanish source speaking on Arsenal in England, on a German international. Football is universal. And obviously our manager's Spanish, but really? Or is this just an easy article to write? I'm not too sure, people. We all know he's a top player. Apparently, he's been added to the list of potential midfield targets, with Arteta hoping to sign a big name soon. I'm not sure how Partey directly correlates to Kimmich coming in, and there's not really any legs to this, people. But this article says, in addition to Kimmich, Arsenal also eyeing Douglas Luiz, Frankie de Jong, and Martin Zubimendi. I'm sure us Arsenal fans be happy with either one. Speaking of Spain, young Spanish player Nico Williams. Arsenal are pressing to sign winger Nico Williams. Atletico Bilbao have a feeling that the player is going to leave them at the end of the season. Fair enough. If that's who we want. This is obviously in relation to Osimhen. We've gone over that already. Jarell Hato looks set to sign a new deal at Ajax, which could make it difficult for Arsenal to prize him away. Arsenal target Jarell Hato is set to sign a new 4-year deal at Ajax next month. No worries, come back for him at 19. Make sure Timber and that keep messaging him, even though I'd love him now. The defender who has started in every match for Ajax this season is capable of playing as a centre-back or a left-back. So, taking my Arsenal hat off, you're 17. There's no reason for you to leave Ajax at this moment in time. Ajax are a big club. You're playing week in, week out. You've captained the team. Minutes are currency. Obviously, there's pressure. The Dutch are very... one thing I like about how the Dutch, whether it's the pundits, ex-players, whatever, they're very honest. Especially when it comes to punditry, they're very honest. They will tell you you're playing crap. So there is an element of pressure and things. And respectfully to Ajax and the Eredivisie in Holland, it's very different to go to Arsenal or somewhere. So are you ready for that? You're doing what you need to do. But I would love him, people. The Telegraph reported in early January that Mikel Arteta has identified Hato as a target for Arsenal as the Spaniard maps out his defensive plans in the long term. The Gunners signed Hato's former teammate Timber from Ajax last summer, but he's been restricted to one appearance due to injury. Again, apparently he's agreed a new deal until mid-2028 with Ajax, but he'll only sign the deal once he turns 18, obviously, because he can, I think when you're 17, you can only sign a 3-year deal. Obviously, once you turn 18, you can sign for 5 years. He's currently got 18 months left on his deal. So I guess unless it's set in stone, anything can happen, really and truly. So yeah, would love him, really. He did once say, he did once say, unfortunately, Timber was seriously injured in his first Premier League game for Arsenal, but he's still young and has a bright future ahead of him. Smash the like button, people. In any case, the move to Arsenal was a wonderful one for him. It's also my dream to one day make such a transfer, but I realized that I still have a long way to go. Keep working hard. You sound like you got your head screwed on, really. And Romano has confirmed this as well, that Hato is on a list of European top clubs, including Arsenal. There will be no release clause in his contract, people. Onana's agent, I covered this yesterday, has revealed she's revealed that her brother has rejected a move away from Everton in January. Don't know who that was. He's been linked with Newcastle, Man United, Chelsea, Barcelona, as well as Arsenal. We could have left this winter, but we once again sat down and asked the question whether it's the right time, if the player is ready. My job is to put opportunities on the table. In the end, he's the one who makes the choice because it's his life and his career. I put the opportunities on the table and he said, no, I want to stay at Everton and I want to continue to fight. I'm lucky that my brother is intelligent, which isn't the case for all players. So I give him the pros and cons of a situation that's on the table. We talk about it. He asks me my opinion, and I say, this is what I think. Then he makes his choice. Personally, I'm also not a fan of transfers during the winter. Often it's to put a stop to a bad situation. It's clubs that are trying to turn the situation around after the transfers they did in the summer. They are clubs that are bleeding, trying to find a plaster. Fantastic analogy there. Once again, people, Nico Williams is among the players Arsenal are monitoring in wide positions. Injuries have cooled the chances of any Pedro Neto interest being formalized. That was by Kaya Karnak of Football.London, people. It is understood that an out-and-out 9 like Ivan Toney is not necessarily the priority, although nothing has been ruled out this early. And we've also had confirmation that Marquinhos has headed back to Brazil and signed for Fluminense on an initial loan with an option to buy if certain clauses are met. So if he doesn't, you didn't do nothing at Norwich, you didn't do nothing at Nantes. If you go to Fluminense and don't do anything, then there's something wrong with you, really. We've gone over the Pedro Neto stuff. Allegedly, Chris Wheatley is saying Timber is expected to return to full training by the end of the month, but there's pressure for him to start anytime soon. Pressure? There can't never be pressure when he's had the injury he's had, people. Once again, Arsenal reportedly joined the transfer race for Aston Villa link Nico Williams. The 21-year-old has a lot of interest. Apparently, his previous release clause was 50 million euros, which equated to 42 million. Apparently, he signed a new deal until 2027, which makes it very difficult, even more difficult, better yet, to prize him away. Martinelli spoke about not getting success at his Man United trial, but it's proof everything happens for a reason, people. I was hoping when you get a trial, you think it's going to work out. At the club the size of Man United, it makes you anxious, but things happen for a reason. It wasn't where I was supposed to be. It was at Arsenal, and everything worked out for me to go to Arsenal. Fair enough. And he said, my father always had the dream of having a player son. I think we all do when you see the money in football, really and truly. To my future wife and my unborn kid, bro, before you even come into this world, I'm going to be touching your tummy. I need to feel you do kick-ups. So you're crazy. I'm trying to get this money. He tried to be a player, but it didn't work out. Sounds like us. He played amateur football. He had in the mind that when I turned 6, he would take me to Corinthians. He took me, and I remember it to this day, on the course at I can't say that. When I was 6 years old, it looked like a field. I passed the test. It was whatever, incredible guy. He approved me. And when I went on my way, I suffered a lot because I got there when I was 6 and left when I was 13. It was a very tough time. I still remember it today. We had won a title at the end of the year, and I told my coach I was leaving. He didn't believe it. I cried a lot. My mother cried. Leaving a place where everyone knew me was my home. I suffered a lot. But I had to understand that this was my parents' decision. Well, everything worked out for a reason. Again, Marquinhos has left and joined Fluminense on loan until January 2025. So, yeah, let's hope you do all right. Big up you, man. You need to go and get some football. We've gone over that. I would love us to sign Archie Gray. Don't know why that's there, but it is there. Apparently, Arsenal value star man Bukayo Saka at around 150 to 200 million. Great. Price him out of a move, man. Let him stay forever. Smith Rowe could be sold in the summer, and he would count as pure profit. We've heard that before. That's nothing new. We've gone over Nico Williams. Romano on Pedro Neto, for what it's worth, said, I'm sure that Wolves' Pedro Neto will be on the list of many clubs this June. Not just Arsenal and Liverpool, and he has still been linked with City once again. The fee for him is not clear so far, as Wolves are refusing to indicate a price. That will be discussed closer to the summer transfer window. Also, no one is leading the race as things stand, and that will become more concrete and clearer around May/June. So there you have that. We've gone over that yesterday with Teeny. PSG are working on extending Warren Zaire-Emery's contract as well as Xavi Simons. I know a lot of Arsenal fans were keen on potentially grabbing him. Apparently, Barcelona would like to sign KK from Napoli. One of the three of Mitoma, KK of Napoli, and Martinelli. Let's forget about that. You had him on trial, should have got him. Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man United are being kept informed about the lit situation at Bayern Munich. Again, we'd all love Mbappé on Redo Your Part. We all know Thomas Frank has recently admitted that, Ivan Toney, the 27-year-old who's contracted until 2025, is going to keep it moving. We hear Arsenal are leading the way, and this article is basically just saying Brentford, are going to replace him very well. As they've shown, they can replace players. Willian has opened up on his Arsenal exit, which I don't think anybody cares about, but he said, when I left Arsenal, everyone knows it was not good. It was a difficult year for me. I decided to leave, and at the time, I still had 2 more years contract, which don't know how we got here, but okay. I just said to them, listen, let's break the contract. It has not worked the way we wanted. I will go, well, maybe it did for Chelsea fans. I'll go somewhere else and I'll continue to play football. I turned the situation around, and now 3 years later, I am at this club enjoying myself. It's an amazing club, to be honest. Big up you lot. People were saying to me, you're crazy. You cannot give up this kind of money. They were saying any other player in your position would never do that. They would sit on the contract and collect money, stuff like that. But I don't think about money. I know money is important for sure, but it's not the first thing in my life. When you can say that you made a lot of money in it. For me, God first, then family, then football. The other things, but I wasn't happy, so that's why I decided to leave. Big up you, man. We wish you all the best, and I'm happy you've gone. Martinelli on his uptake in form has said, I think I'm getting into the groove now. I had an injury at the start of the season, which hindered me a bit. Now I'm back to 100% scoring goals again. My guy. Oh, Martinelli, confident, and the lads always help me. And I believe that we'll achieve many good things this season. Inshallah, my guy. Inshallah. So that's the same thing. And he also said the team dynamic is really good, especially following the Liverpool win. We knew that they were one of our direct rivals, but right after that game, we started thinking about West Ham right away. I think that we'd lost the last 2 games in the cup and in the league at home as well. We've been struggling against them, and this 6-0 win was important. We put in a performance which everyone did well in. I'm very happy with our current situation, and I don't think anybody is going to disagree with what Martinelli said here. Again, don't forget, on the topic of the Burnley game, we will be doing a watch along for that, people. Again, big up to everyone who's hit the like button on that, including myself. Make sure you do such. Earlier today, I'm sure some of you lot would have seen it, but if you're more interested, Dan Potts, big him up and subscribe to him. We had a great discussion, as we've just said. And big up Jess of She Knows Arsenal. I had her on the show yesterday, so there's always content for you lot, people. What are you lot saying in the comments? And hit the like button if you haven't already, folks. Napoli are playing poor. Instead of Osimhen, I'd rather get Cava and Sesko. I hear it. And even Rafa Leao, some of the people that were waffling about him, he ain't scored for a minute. Williams is better than Neto, but I'd rather we go for Xavi Simons. I think PSG be crazy to let him go, man. They'd be absolutely crazy to let him go at this moment in time, if I'm completely honest. But it is what it is in that regard. But with that, people, that's all I've got to say. That's all we've got to talk about. Please make sure you're smashing the like button, you're subscribing, you're commenting after the video, as well as doing what you're doing. Hope you lot have enjoyed your Friday and your week, and I hope you lot enjoyed the weekend. Before we get out of here, Bruno and Isaac are a good shout for the summer, or Douglas Luiz. I'm not feeling Zubamendi anymore. I'm having Zubamendi. Bruno, I assume you mean Bruno Gomares. Hopefully not Fernandes. Gonna cost top whack. Isaac is a player I think fits the Arsenal system, but Newcastle are going to want a lot of money, and it's a bit like Pedro Neto. Like if we sign Isaac and Pedro Neto, for example, I'd be gassed, I'd be happy. They give us new dimensions and stuff like that. But then I would look and say, you know, they do pick up, and specifically Isaac, he picks up a lot of injuries and already got a lot of players like that. Maybe it's something Arsenal internally are not doing. I don't know. But yeah, smash the like button, comment, subscribe, check out the rest of the content. I'll see you lot all tomorrow, man. Peace.
There's always just that active and defending. I think it's like